We live in a relatively low crime area, and our incarceration rate in local jails is double the national average.
When you crowd people in, tempers will flare, indiscipline will occur. It's absolutely unconscionable to expect us to continue to operate at 200% capacity.
Big picture, what are we thinking incarceration is doing for us?
This idea of building more jail isn't really going to solve the problem.
The harm that happens in relationship to the criminal legal system is, in my opinion, never ending.
Just because you make a mistake doesn't mean that's who you're going to be for the rest of your life.
What does justice mean in my context?
We should be fixing the system instead of steadily building jails.
So much of this is not political. Everybody wants to reduce jail overcrowding. You want to live in a safe community.
Communities used to happen because people lived next to each other. The more mobile people have become, the more difficult it is to name sort of what's community to me.
Seeing incarceration not as a solution, but as a problem that needs to be solved.
Start with the question, what is justice?
Is it just the brave and free, or is it more? The meek, the mild, the caged.
Production funding for this program is made possible by
The jail was built with a capacity to house 396 offenders. Since 2015, we've been operating at about 200 to 220% of that capacity.
I don't know if anybody's for you going first. We're going down the hall.
Hey, don't let anybody up the hallway.
Hey, y'all shut your hallway down. We've got a group of film crew coming through.
We were established and open for operation in 2006. Our original 3 members were the County of Augusta, cities of Waynesboro and Stanton. In 2015, County of Rockingham and the city of Harrisonburg joined. We didn't add any toilets, we didn't add any showers. That means we're putting 2, sometimes 3 offenders in space that was designed for 1.
This is a regional jail. So there are people in there who have just been arrested, who might be in there for 20 minutes before they're bonded out. And there are people in there who have gone to a hearing and been sentenced. If it's 2 years or less, then they'll stay at Middle River.
Jail is hard. Jail is stressful. You don't want to increase and elevate that stress by the living conditions.
It has gone up to 1,000 now. It's averaging about 770 population a day. And it was not built to manage that, and it needs to be expanded.
I retired from the Army in 1996, went into the jail business. I find it fascinating. I've also worked in a prison, but I like working in a local jail because it provides you an opportunity to engage individuals that have run afoul of the criminal justice system and provide them an opportunity to change.
Everything's monitored right here.
It's like running a small city. So smile.
Yes, sir.
So this is what we call master control. This is where the staff control movement throughout the facility. I don't think the general public really understands the role of the jail. We don't get to say, we don't have enough staff today, so we're not taking anybody. We take into our custody anybody that the court orders into our custody.
Sometimes we have to deal with a lot of mental health issues. We also have substance abuse concerns that we need to manage on a daily basis.
People with a serious mental illness are statistically much more likely to be the victims of crime, of violence, than the perpetrators of it. But sometimes because of the mental illness, they've lost resources. Law enforcement quite often in the field has to interact with someone in crisis.
18 to 20% of my population have a diagnosed serious mental illness. We are a de facto mental health facility, and that's not what we're designed to be.
In the jail, things are just going to get worse.
New inmates are generally here 24 hours and then they go to a pre-classification dorm. This is not a housing
Yeah,
unit.
they don't live here.
The processing aim provides an opportunity to see the medical staff. All right, so that's going to be the last of your fixes.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're in a carceral state crisis.
This expansion says we're expecting that we're not going to do any better. In fact, we're expecting things to get worse.
Superintendent Newton likes to say that it's been operating at over 200% capacity for the last several years. In fact, it's been operating at well over its capacity for its entire existence.
The jail was built for an occupancy of like 300 people. The day they opened, they were told by DOC to double it.
The percentage of stays at Middle River that are over 90 days have about doubled.
The number of folks coming to jail is dropping, but the length they're staying with us is increasing. Maybe because of what the Commonwealth Attorney is doing. It may be what the court is doing.
Why don't we reimagine doing a comprehensive plan about incarceration in this area?
We citizens do not want more people to be incarcerated.
We have more than enough jail beds. We are just incarcerating far too many people.
Portions of the community objected strenuously to the prospect of a jail expansion and object to the number of folks that are being incarcerated in the region.
We're not for expansion of the jail, but we're also not for warehousing people and letting them live in poor conditions. So we need to do something to the facility that we have.
The board feels pressure because of the population at the facility.
We have heard many stories of abuse, mistreatment at Middle River.
The jail has been severely understaffed. As of last week, no one in Middle River Jail had been outside in over 3 months. They continually put the inmates on lockdown.
If we're going to spend taxpayer dollars, there are far better places to put it.
We can do better to serve our people.
The people who are well-intentioned are feeling like we need to not expand the jail because they wanted to provide resources and monies to provide alternatives to jail.
The frustration for us is, opponents, you don't want to build a jail, then you need to deal with the underlying causes of why people come to jail.
This is my lovely makeshift green screen. When we started working from home, of course, at that time I was still actually working at the Commonwealth Attorney's Office. My lovely space.